Mr. Shilowa, very good afternoon to you. Thank you so much for your time. So you are criticizing the ANC for speaking from both ends of its mouth, but the question that a lot of people are still dealing with is, how did we get here?
Well, I guess we got here because over time, corruption, not just in the ANC, but in society generally, in the public sector, have become acceptable. And as a result, it just becomes another story, and tomorrow we have moved on into another story. But I think that these happenings, especially around the protective equipment for public servants that people profited from, have prompted even the ANC itself to once more speak about issues of the need to eradicate corruption. The problem is not speaking about it, because I think everybody speaks about it, is what steps can be taken to deal with it. And I think for me, there are three issues that I'm really raising. The first one is to accept that, look, there's nothing that the president can do to curb corruption generally in society. That belongs to the NPA, to the Hawks, and the other law enforcement offices. So all he can do is to ensure he appoints the right people there. But insofar as some of it happens inside his own party, where people justify that it is fine that senior leaders of the ANC, members of parliament, or cabinet members, their families and themselves can do business with the state, I think there the ANC and the president is in a position to act. And finally, also to do with the public service, there he is in a position to act. And I think he needs to be able to take those action. Also because when we went through for the election, he said to the people of South Africa, 9 wasted years is over, impunity is over, I am going to act. And all people are expecting is that he carries his word. And currently, I don't think that's happening, especially as you can see with how they just continue as before. I know that we're talking Gumede now. We may have been talking about the Limpopo leadership. But, it's the same, because you still have Bongo, Msebenzi, Des, and others. They are all in parliament. They are all in the NEC. So the rot has to stop somewhere.
Another recurring theme, though, in some of the incidents that we've dealt with in the last, 2 years or so, since Cyril Ramaphosa indeed became president of the ANC, is about how whenever people's names are mentioned in allegations of corruption and then reinstated, the ANC appears to be trying to walk that line between party and country. And even in the Zandile Gumede example, for example, when you listen to the explanations, it appears very much as though the KZN ANC is trying to keep itself together because she's so influential in party structures. It begs the question, does President Ramaphosa then have the necessary skill and savviness, if that's even a word, to walk that line politically and root out those elements?
Well, I think for me, it's the choice that he makes. One says he knows that the people that voted him into power and the ANC comprise mainly about people who are not members of the ANC, that there are people who voted for the ANC who would not have voted for it if he was not the candidate for the ANC, if he was not going to become the president. Now, those people, if they come to the conclusion that he is just the same as others, it means that when we go to the next elections, whether it's local, provincial, and national, they're now going to say anything he says is the same. No one says he must not work for the unity of the ANC. But I think if you work for the unity of the ANC by allowing corruption to fester throughout society, you may end up having a well-oiled machinery of the ANC capable of fighting the elections, purporting to be united, but only because it allows one another to eat. In any case, Thembekile, you can't say it is united when the veterans say, look, we don't agree with the reinstatement of Gumede and other people, and then the other structures say that's where we are. Mantashe says, well, we have yet to discuss the issue of Razilani them. The SG says we have taken that decision. So even that unity that people pretend is there, it's not there. It becomes just a fuss.
But the ANC, of course, closing rank among its members with questionable track records is not necessarily a Ramaphosa phenomenon. We've seen it for the better part of the last 25 years or so. So how then, in this moment, is it different from the previous presidents, from the Mandela era, Thabo Mbeki, Jacob Zuma, and this moment?
You're absolutely right that it's not a phenomenon that starts under him. If you remember that one of the people who raised issues of Sarafina too was Minister Simang Shabalala, who was at that point the chairperson of the Health Committee. What happened? She was promoted upwards to ensure that, those things don't happen. When you had Mr. Lekota and Ace and others fighting with terror, saying, look, these people were corrupt and all of them were removed, terror given a position elsewhere differently. So it has always been like that. But the point that one is making is that all of those presidents, including Thabo Mbeki, including Zuma, have always said, we are going to end the road. And Ramaphosa has to decide, is he also just going to join the queue that talks left, walks right, or is he going to say, look, you know what, I know what these things are doing to society. He has been in business. He knows the impact of corruption on business, but also it impacts more on poor people. So yes, it's not starting, but the notion that says, well, because Zuma did not do nothing about it, therefore we shouldn't raise it with Cyril, will be wrong. In the same way that he can't say, well, you didn't raise it under Mbeki. It may not have been raised as sharply as it is, but I know that there would have been a lot of reports written. If you remember, the whole issue of the arms deal is being raised not just about Zuma. Zuma is just being accused of involvement. But the issue of, in terms of the offset and the people that ran with it, is being put squarely on Thabo Mbeki's shoulders. So he can't say it's not being raised about other people.
And here's the criticism of people such as yourself. Yes, you're speaking out now, appealing to the president in this way. People say, people such as yourself, who are former members of the Tripartite Alliance and indeed veterans who remain in the organization but are now speaking out against the wrongs, do so only because you're no longer in the fold, and that when you were there, you weren't necessarily as vocal. Would you then say you've always been this person and always stood up and spoken out against these ills?
Not only have I always spoken about, I think, I am not saying that there may not have been questionable deals that happened when I was premier. But people would know that except for the one related to health, which was only brought to my attention once I had left, in which I have gone to the Hawks, I've given the statement, I don't know why they are not acting. You would find that not only have I spoken out, but I've also tried to ensure that one walks the talk and ensure that one runs a clean government.
All right, Mbhazima Shilowa, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.